Okay, we're back for part two here, and I just got done saying that your bedroom, that when you were a child, is spirit has spiritual power, whether you want to believe it or not. And I'm just saying that as a kind of a in a joking way because I was trying to just make an analogy that might hold and might not, but it's maybe a window into thinking about how a place can have like a really strong significance in a way that we're unfamiliar with. Another theme in indigenous religions is ancestor veneration. Sometimes it's considered ancestor worship, which maybe is a little. I don't like the term as much because I don't see practitioners of indigenous religions worshiping ancestors. It just seems that they're held in a very high regard, and part of this is because there's a concept that these ancestors who have passed away are not dead in the way that we think of death. So they continue to live in a kind of, and it could be in a certain, on a different plane of existence perhaps, because they can sort of bring good fortune to a group of people. The details of this are going to escape me, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it anyway. But a certain indigenous religion that I have in my mind, perhaps it was Haitian voodoo, I believe. The cemeteries that are around the community are sort of like the best kept place in that whole community. There's like not a bit of trash. It's just completely clean, and it's and then the living quarters and sort of where people do business and the market and whatever are they're not as well kept, and this is because they believe in Haiti, in the Haitian voodoo communities. They believe that these groups of ancestors can have a tremendous impact on the fate of that community. And incidentally, I learned that during the hurricanes that went through Haiti and demolished certain communities, they often felt there was this feeling of that the ancestors had something to do with it, and that perhaps the ancestors were disappointed in the community or something like that. But ancestors play a very important role in indigenous religions across the world. Okay, now I'm going to pause here and just ask you a question. And you can't answer this directly. Don't bother emailing me about this. But I just want you to think, off the top of your head, what would you consider to be part of this umbrella term that we call indigenous religions? Which religions would you consider to be a part of it? And if you've already read the chapter, then you're going to have a couple in mind. But if you haven't read the chapter, I'm curious, kind of, are you thinking anything? Do you have any idea what an indigenous religion would be? So again, you don't have to answer this to me. This is just for yourself to get you thinking. These types of religions are generally located in less technologically advanced cultures. However, we are seeing the resurgence. I don't know if I want to say that word, but I'll say it. The resurgence of indigenous religions in technologically advanced cultures. So did I just contradict myself? They're usually not located in advanced cultures, technologically advanced cultures. However, we're seeing the rise of the occurrence in these cultures. So now, why would this be the case? So think about that for a second. Maybe you already have. Perhaps here are a few answers. Perhaps because we have more information than previous generations did. So if you think, for example, about like 1850 in Ohio, like your average person's not going to have information about what a certain indigenous religion in Africa thinks or is up to. So it's sort of like outside of the realm of possibility for that religion to spread. Although now everything is like online, and not everything. Okay, subconscious thoughts are not online at this point, but just wait and see. Everything is online, and it's like you just have to type a few words in, and then you're exposed to this whole new way of thinking. And so people, these indigenous religions kind of evolve, and there's like Western, like, I don't want to say branches, but like Western examples, where they're just like new religious movements, or like, I don't know what to say. I think in a lot of cases, they're new religious movements that sort of borrow heavily from these indigenous religions and sort of practices they have. Okay, so that's one example. And let's see. We have access to the practitioners of these religions, so we can actually, email the people who, like a shaman. You could, if you want, you could email a shaman. Some people are moving away from institutional religions, for just different reasons, and they feel a need to be a part of a spirituality that's like outside of the realm of politics. What might be one example. There's like indigenous religions are big on, like, the importance of the planet, and there's this whole, from the 1960s, this whole hippie movement where it's the earth, green, everything like this. So it's there's connections in there as well. Let's see. And like I said, simple things like going back to the basics. And many of us are alienated from that. Really, truly. I mean, let me see how much time I have here. Okay, we're good. Many of us are just very alienated from the earth. And it's like, at my house, I live along a river, and at night I hear the sounds of the river, and it's amazing to hear the frogs and the bugs, and to see the moon shine so bright. And when I lived in the city, it's like all of that it's easy to forget that even exists. But there's a whole lot more to this world than the cities that we've made, and we sort of know that. Like, that's why we want to go, that's why everybody's, I don't know, it seems like a common thing for people to put on their profile is, I like hiking, I like the outdoors. I mean, we all know that's like, there's more to life than these human, like little boxes that we live in, and so this is one way that people sort of try to tap into something bigger, is diving into indigenous religions. And so these religions, last point I want to make about the general point before I get into the primary characteristics of these groups. These religions tend to last as long as they can remain isolated. When they mix with other cultures, they lose their uniqueness. And now I guess that has like a false sense of like purity to it. I mean, there's like blends of indigenous religions and like bigger religions like Christianity and Islam. There's like blends all over the planet of these religions. In Africa, a lot you see like a blend of indigenous religion and Christianity. Or in Haiti, the voodoo that I was talking about, it is a blend of an indigenous religion and Catholicism. So it's just blends. And I think that thing to keep in mind is that these religions perhaps are dying out, and they might be on their way out. So it's unfortunate, and it's just the way of they're not dead, but they haven't had a good path in the last 100 years. They've been on the decline. So now there are 4 characteristics of indigenous religions I want to point out, and then I think I'll stop it, and then I'll just let you read the textbook. They tend to be monotheistic, in that monotheism means they focus on one supreme God or energy or a force. The concept of God in these religions is one that is very difficult to wrap your head around if you come to it thinking of like God as in the form of like a Christian God or an Abrahamic, from the Abrahamic tradition. It's not going to make much sense. So you have to really just open your mind when you read about how an indigenous religion thinks of God. The one supreme thing, and I will say thing, not like being, is authoritative. It's distant and it's unapproachable. No human has access to the divine thing. So that's important. No human has access to this divine thing. They believe in spirits. The world and everything around is alive, like I said, rocks and so on, because of spirits, mana. Humans, mana. You could say mana or mana. I said mana for so long, that's what I tend to revert to, but mana I think is the more correct way. Humans interact with spirits, but not with God. So the holy people in a certain tribe or group is a shaman, known as a shaman, and they will interact with spirits, not with God. Often, too, this is an interesting side note, often shaman will, and this is something that happens all across the world, too, so it's interesting, is that shaman will take hallucinogenic, either like in Africa, there's like a tree bark that's a hallucinogen, or in South America, there's they have tree bark down there, or like leaves, there's different leaves and then mushrooms, and shaman will take these substances to communicate with the spirits. Okay, so they're not communicating with God. Don't confuse that. They're communicating with the spirits, and the spirits are kind of like the in-between between God and the shaman. Humans can access the spirits through deceased ancestors. Deceased members of a tribe can be more valuable to a tribe because they have direct contact with the spiritual realm. Okay. The third one here is they tend to be animistic, and you'll read about what animism is. There's a spiritual quality to all of life. So animals all have a kind of a spiritual quality to them, or they possess the potential to have a spiritual quality. In these animistic religions, it's important to revere these things. Each of these spirits possesses mana, which again is a spiritual power, and each spirit has a different amount of mana. The more mana, the more spiritually rich that entity is. And in a tribe, the person who possesses the most mana is, take a guess, the shaman. Okay, the fourth characteristic of these indigenous religions, and then we'll be done, they believe in and they practice magic. Now, I don't mean like a card, they don't use playing cards or anything. Magic in a different sense. So this, again, leave your preconceptions at the door. They use magic as a means to communicate with the spirit realm. Native Americans would do rain dances before buffalo hunts, and these are just one example of a magical ritual. I think I'll stop here. I think we've said a lot, and I think it'll help orient you as you read the chapter this week. Just keep in mind, these religions don't have unifying texts and organized systems of thought. So just approach this stuff with an open mind, and it'll serve you well.